It's time for Tastemaker Talk, the podcast for food creators who want to level up their business and make an impact in the creator economy. I'm Abby Rodriguez.
And I'm Chandace Probst. We're your hosts and fellow food content creators here to dive deep into the trends, tools, and topics shaping the industry around us. There's so much to uncover, so let's talk about it. Tastemaker Talk.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Tastemaker Talk, Why Creators Who Treat Their Blogs Like Media Companies Win Long-Term with Shaunda Necole. Shaunda is the founder of The Soul Food Pot, an award-winning author who turned 2 of her 3 blogs into back-to-back book deals. She's known for building an evergreen empire, a content ecosystem where recipes, storytelling, and search strategy work together to create lasting impact, income, and cultural preservation. Her work reflects a scalable media company model, and her upcoming cookbook, The Soul Food Pot Cookbook, continues her mission to turn soul food stories into legacy. Welcome, Shaunda.
Hi, so glad to be here, Abby, on Tastemaker Talk.
I really like that you're talking about positioning yourself, not just like as a creator, which the creator economy is thriving. I feel like it's legitimized. It's continuing to grow. But I think there's still sometimes is this mental block of like, you are a media company, especially like creators. We have so much influence and power to make these cultural shifts and truly be influencing how people are spending their time and resources and dollars and all those things. And I think it's such like an empowering standpoint to be like, you're a media company. So, and thinking about it from this intellectual, IP standpoint. So talk us through, the growth story of your creator journey. First of all, give us a backstory on how it all happened.
Yeah, because I'm pretty multifaceted, which we'll get into. I love when I can monetize the things that I just naturally enjoy doing. So early on, my content, it looked like most bloggers, a little bit of everything. It was almost like a digital diary. I always kind of say it that way, where it was home decor, Vegas travel, recipes, but because it wasn't structured, it was hard for Google or anybody for that matter to really understand like what I was an authority in. I don't even know, like I knew what authority sort of meant back then when it came to like content creation. So the shift happened when I stopped asking what should I post and lean more and started asking into what am I building? Like, where am I going with this?
Yeah.
So I leaned into SEO and it clicked for me because I naturally, kind of geeky, but I naturally think in systems. For me, it's always everything has a place and there's a place for everything. I remember my kids would like, when we went into the store, would say, walk away from the bins, get away from them. You can't buy any more bins. Because I love organization and storage is my thing. So that's where SEO just really landed.
Yeah.
So instead of creating scattered content, I started building organized hubs and separate platforms that each owned a very clear lane.
Okay.
So, for example, my Vegas content lives on my site, Vegas Right Now, where I focus on travel, experiences, and local storytelling. My recipes and cultural food content live on my site, The Soul Food Pot, where I center Black Southern cuisine and preservation. And then my personal brand site, ShaundaNecole.com, connects it all. So my speaking, my consulting, and the bigger picture behind what I'm building. So instead of trying to make one platform, which I was doing in the beginning, for everything, each one has a defined role. And together they operate like that media company ecosystem that you mentioned. So today it's kind of evolved into multiple sites, like with podcasts, the Substack, and like you mentioned, the back-to-back book deals, but they're all connected under that same structure. And I think that's the shift from content to infrastructure that really changed everything for me.
So taking all of that, as your foundation that you've built like a media company, because right, when we think of a traditional media company, they have multiple platforms. Like I guess let's use Disney as an example. Which we're allowed to say that, right? I don't know. They have like speaking of IP, they have like crazy IP laws. Like you're not allowed to say that. But I think like they're a great media company example because look at what they've done. They have They started as a cartoon and then built a theme park, and now they have purchased like the Marvel universe and have a streaming service and all these different things. And I think it's hard because creators, right? Oftentimes we're just a one person show. So I think it can be tricky to think of it sometimes in that media empire standpoint because it's like, how do you manage it all? So that would be my question for you is, are you doing this as a solopreneur or are you contracting some of it out? Like, what does that look like from a practical standpoint?
Yeah, Empire made me think of Star Wars because that's like
To
I'm
go Disney,
too. You're right.
they own that too.
Yeah, they own that too. Fun, but pretty much a solopreneur. However, I do have team members,
Yeah.
and again, in that kind of organizational mindset, everyone
Yeah.
has a specific role. Like I've had my graphic designer for we're probably going on 10 years together.
Yeah.
I have someone who manages my content. And that's not just like I'm having fun on social, which is my biggest presence is actually on my 3 sites, but
Yeah.
where like there's YouTube organization,
Yep.
connecting it to social, excuse me, to connecting it to the blog,
Yep.
making sure that content, has a life cycle there, not, from blog to other platform.
Gotcha.
Um, I'll talk about a little bit like I have an IP attorney. That
Yeah.
was kind of a big game changer for me. So, and then I'll bring in sometimes one-off people. I have a SEO strategist. So whereas um, I love SEO and kind of like I said, the organization and the craft behind that, and how we're niching for specific buckets of expertise. I
Yeah.
still kind of like to keep myself grounded and have someone that focuses on that for content strategy also. So there are team members, and there are team members. So I'm still
Yeah.
a one show for the most part, but there are team members that come in for very specific niche projects along the way.
Yeah, they're contracted out. Because I do think, like, when I hear, like, you are a media company, but I think it can be really intimidating to be like, wait, but how do I do this? But it's like you have so much potential, but like here's a sustainable way to do it. Like contract out these things and
Right.
stay on the things that light you up. And so speaking of that, when you were mentioning SEO and you're like, I love organization, I was laughing internally when you're like, my kids say stay away from the bins because I just spent all weekend nesting because it's spring and we spent an, like horrible amount of money. Like I'm embarrassed by like the amount of money I spent on bins and organization, but like it's so amazing. So I agree with you when it's like, oh, I love a good organization. I like things to have a place. And I think that's why so many of our creators love SEO because it's like it makes sense, it has a place, it has a home. But search has changed.
Yeah.
I am very curious to hear you lit up when you talked about SEO. It seems like that's the thing you love. What are your thoughts, though, on GEO, generative search, now being part, of search engine optimization? Because, AI, for all intents and purposes, it's just another search engine. There's just more of them now, and the way it's monetized looks different, but it's still functioning as a library to, bring people to your content. So talk to me a little bit about how you're shifting that strategy with GEO from this like media standpoint.
Yeah, well, it's SEO still exists 100%,
Yeah.
but the way that people search or actually get answers, because that's the key part now,
Yeah.
is different. So people used to go to Google to search. Now they go to AI to get answers.
Hmm.
And that changes how we have to show up as creators. So I think for me, that shift happened when a lot of my, or especially a good handful of my signature recipes started going viral. That's
Yeah.
when I realized that I wasn't just creating posts anymore, that I was creating assets. And that's really important.
Oh,
Yeah, creating assets when you're thinking about yourself as a media company. And I guess in that lens of thinking of yourself as a media company, it's not the idea that like, oh my gosh, media company, I have to do everything.
yeah.
Even like your developer, they're not always on the scene doing things for you. So it's kind of a one-off
Yeah.
kind of structural thing. So just thinking of it as that when you're bringing on other team members, that it's not, an 100% new team members all the time where you have to do everything, but it's definitely a growth. So from there, I became more intentional about how those assets were structured for discoverability. And again, for today, not just for traditional search, but for what we're seeing now with generative search or GEO.
Yeah.
So instead of publishing standalone recipes, I started organizing my content into clusters and pillars. and series where each piece supports a larger topic and reinforces my authority in that space. So I pay close attention to what my data is telling me, not just traffic, but how people move through my content, like what they're clicking, what they're coming back for, what that helps me identify where to expand, like what to
Mm-hmm.
refine, and what's building into something bigger. So in
So
today's
give me an example
Mhm.
of how you've done that recently. Like what is like a piece of content or a series or something that you've developed with GEO in mind and still SEO, but what type of work have you done recently around that as an example?
Yeah, so one of the series on my site is Make It Your Way, which is really fun because
Oh.
readers like freedom and flexibility, and that's what I'm all about.
Hmm.
So I created what I called a guided experience where my content helps people cook with confidence and flexibility. Again, I call it my Make It Your Way approach.
Yeah.
So whether it's stovetop, oven, air fryer, or instant pot, which is my favorite, I'm showing people that they have options without sacrificing flavor, which is important for soul food or tradition.
Yeah.
So that consistency creates something bigger than content. It created a recognizable framework and a brand experience that people start to seek out by name. And that's when things kind of started to things started to compound in so many different
Yeah.
ways. That's like a recent good example where it's not that I just wasn't building traffic, but again, building that intellectual property that you talked about. It
Yeah.
creates a framework to the way that I structure my content. And that brand recognition and structured ecosystem is ultimately what led to my cookbook deal. And
Okay.
yeah, opened the door to expanding beyond the blog. So I also say on my site, Shaunda says. So it's honestly,
Ooh, I like that.
yeah, like it's kind of my tips, my
Yeah.
expert tips in the kitchen. So one of those Shaunda says moments, once people stop searching for a recipe and start searching for you, that's when everything changes. And so that's kind of what you want to be building that type of framework that people recognize, that they begin to search for. And that's kind of that shift from blogger to brand.
Yeah. And like a media personality, really, at that point. Like it's a recognizable name. And I think that's the interesting thing that I see happening just within the creator economy. The evolution of creator commerce, social commerce, seeing the market trends of how the younger generations are starting to shop. I'm spending a lot of time reading about that right now. And it's been interesting to hear how it's like parasocial relationships. It's no longer, I'm just going to go Google this thing and maybe I scroll and I see this person on TikTok and it's passive and then they're gone and they're not in my mind. Like I have children who are part of Gen Alpha and they just watch YouTube pretty much, right? And it's because they identify with this person. It's not just like, oh, this is a creator and influencer I follow. It's like, no, I know and I trust this person and it does feel like they have this media company and it's like they have a true parasocial relationship. Like they can tell you really insane details about these people's properties and their homes and the things that they do. And it's like one step further than like the creator relationship that I think our generation has made of like, hey, I know Shaunda. Shaunda says this and she's great. And depending on how much I follow you, like, and how much you're willing to put out there about yourself, like, I can know these things. But I do think that is an interesting leap right now of like, how visible are we willing to make ourselves? And like, how does it fit into this intellectual property, media landscape? Like, I'm curious to hear your take on that. Like, do you feel like you have like those types of parasocial relationships with people as you're continuing to like build your company with this media, you know, standpoint in mind?
Yeah, a couple things, quite a few things to unpack there. And I want to give you guys your flowers too, because you connected us after this year's Tastemaker conference to
Hmm.
the Fancy Food Fair.
Yeah.
And I sat through some of the different presentations there, which talked a lot about what you're talking about and bringing that back home, that food is experiential. And it was
Yeah.
really interesting because they talked about it through generations of how people consume, like who's buying the food in the household, which it came down to the younger generations. and that
Yeah.
they like to do that in person because of the experience, even though we would think, oh, they're just gonna, Uber Eats it or, order it through Instacart. They really like the in-person experience. So all to say, so that was like one thing that I thought was really fun.
Hmm.
That was an extension of Tastemaker there. But I think it really boils down to sometimes when we think visibility, it can get a little scary because it's like, oh gosh, I have to be in front of the camera at all times now. And that's not the way. I've been doing this for 10 years in this space
Yeah.
now, as far as being online. And it's just not the way that many food bloggers had to show up before. So
Yeah.
what I would look at it more as creating trust. And that's the difference between being a creator and becoming a category in today's search landscape.
Oh,
So more of trust. So because visibility is no longer the finish line, now it's authority.
yeah.
So SEO, like I said, absolutely still matters, but what's changed is the goal with respect to that. So
Hmm.
it used to be getting found. Now in the age of GEO, it's about getting cited.
Yeah.
And more importantly, being trusted. So in a saturated space like food, differentiation comes from being kind of going beyond the utility. So
Yeah.
recipes are everywhere, but context, culture, and clarity, they're not. So what I try to do is focus on storytelling that answers not just how to cook it, but why it's done this way. That's where that connection really happens for the reader. Especially like for me, where I write such culturally connected food. So why did the ancestors
Yeah.
make it this way? Why do Black folks cook it this way? So I
Yes.
really lean into those things. So at the same time, I'm very intentional about balancing structure with personality, like we were talking about. So my content is optimized for search, obviously, but it also sounds like me. So it's
Hmm.
warm, it's clear, it's rooted in a cultural voice because that's what my readers are coming for and what they're connecting to. And so I watch for trust signals. So not just traffic, but return visitors, direct searches for my brand. That was a big key in landing that book deal was direct searches where I could actually show direct searches for my brand.
Oh, can you tell me a little bit more about that? Like, what was that a metric that your publisher asked for, or is that something that you leveraged on your own?
I leveraged that. Great question. Knowing that that shift was happening, paying close attention to those details, I absolutely leveraged it in my proposal to them. That people are searching the soul food pot way of making, like baked mac and cheese or sweet potato pie, or different recipes. So that was a big thing where it was kind of an easy yes for them at that point. That again, this is bigger than a blog. This is a
Yeah.
business. This is that media ecosystem that we're structuring ourselves for and talking about.
So
So
that answers that question too, because I was thinking that earlier, that I'm like, wow, but how can you quantify that to be like, I can prove that I'm actually a brand that people seek out. And so you're saying that you can look up that search data and say, here are the direct searches, and this is basically a qualifier for me as a brand. That's a good way to just like do an internal audit of like your branding, yeah? Am I getting
absolutely.
that right?
No, you nailed
Okay.
it. I mean, because that tells you that people aren't just finding you. Like for me, they're choosing me.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal, especially when someone's going to invest in you for, a tangible thing, a book, and
Yeah.
trust that it's going to sell. So that's a really big deal. And so that's where that shift that you're talking about, or we're talking about, of seeing
Hmm.
yourself as a media ecosystem versus seeing it as visibility again, which I think is kind of scary, but
Yeah.
just your platforms and owning those spaces. So everything that I create at this point is designed to strengthen that relationship of consistency, clarity, and giving people the confidence to actually cook the food that they want to make.
Yeah.
Especially when it's so tied culturally into heritage and to memories, like this is what my aunt used to make or my grandma. That really has a lot of weight for me. So because in today's landscape, authority, it's not just built on visibility, but it's built back again on trust. So that means that things we used to imply in our content, now we have to say clearly and consistently because AI is reading, it's interpreting, and it's deciding who's the authority in this space.
So give me an example of that.
Well, you want to spell things out where I would say it used to be implied that I was, you could see my picture. So I'm an African American creator.
Yeah.
Well, I say that.
Yeah.
I can talk about my, spell out, in our community why we do things like this. So it's not just implied because you see the picture, but we make our food different ways. Why we flavor, the way we flavor things,
Hmm.
we layer seasoning. So it's no longer just implied that because this is a soul food
Yeah.
recipe, that, it's going to be flavorful. I spell that out to my readers and explain what I'm doing to make it season, to make it taste this way, and
Hmm.
how that's rooted in, my great grandma Florence, who is kind of the
Yeah.
inspiration behind what I've created, or just the ancestors in general in our
Yeah.
community. So we really want to be intentional about that. And we want to make sure it's structured that way across all platforms. So every page, every post has a role in telling that bigger story about your brand. Excuse me, about your brand.
Hmm.
Um, and I always think of it like I've been building on SEO for years,
Hmm.
but also evolving it. So I've moved from here's my content to now welcome to my world.
Yeah, because I think content posts, like we almost silo it as like this is a thing that lives over here, but it needs to be like part of you. Like it is an extension of you. And again, I think that can be scary though, because it's like, oh, I just want to make food and put it out there in the world.
I feel that, and I've had so many conversations with friends in the creator space about
Hmm.
that. But here's the silent way that I think is often overlooked, kind of like the silent but deadly way to build that trust and authority. And it sounds cliche, but it's like email. Um,
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Like, how does email fit into this in your
oh,
strategy?
oh my gosh, it's a game changer. So email really for me building trust really came down to getting closer with my audience.
Okay.
And email really changed that. So I used to find email like intimidating just because it was I thought it was time
Yeah.
consuming. So, but once I committed to showing up consistently, I started learning real time what my audience actually wanted, not just through their comments, but through their clicks and their behavior, because you can see those direct correlations when you
Yep.
send an email. So
Hmm.
I call my audience the beautiful souls, the soul food pod, the beautiful souls.
Uh-huh.
So that proximity to them, it gave me a huge advantage through email where I could take recipes that weren't performing well and reposition them through storytelling or curiosity in that message and context, and then watch them come to life in a whole new way. So it's like
So, what were the outcomes with that? Like, give me an example of a recipe that you did that with. And like, did you see like a huge traffic increase? Like, how much, traffic is email driving for you?
email is now my second biggest form of traffic. Of course, search and Google
Sure.
still first. So that was huge for me for someone who didn't do any any emailing,
Yeah,
or I can't say
that's
any.
crazy.
Yeah, I
I
won't
mean,
say,
because
but
I'm assuming your search traffic is quite massive. So the fact that it's your second highest referrer source is wow.
yeah, yeah. Where I would totally pay someone to create
Hmm.
like an evergreen, you know, email series for me and then kind of just stop at there. And if I thought about it, send something out, or maybe if there's a sale and I knew I had an affiliate
Yeah.
link out. So I've committed to where I email my audience every single day. And I
Oh, wow.
really enjoy it.
Yeah.
So um, it became, it's just like a trust connection that I have with them at this point through an
Do
email.
you share like more personal things though? I guess that's my question for you. And I'm always so curious when I get to talk to creators about their business model of their media empire. We're calling them your media assets
Right.
of like how do you decide what to share and where? Because I know some people do use email to be a little more personal. Be like, hey, this is what I did this weekend, and look at this cute shirt I bought that I love, and this is a lotion I use, and I know it's not food, but like I love it, and I want to share it with you. Like, how do you feel about that type of
I
strategy?
try, yeah, I try to make sure there's still a connection to food because that's where they
Hmm.
they came in the first place. But here's a cool example that I thought was fun. I recently celebrated the anniversary of my first published book, the 1 year anniversary for 100 Things to Do in Las Vegas Before You Die. So if anyone
Oh,
knows,
that's a fun book.
yeah, it's a fun book. And you know, I live in Las Vegas. I love Las Vegas. Like I'm
Uh-huh.
such a proud, resident here. And
Hmm.
so clearly I wrote a book about the city.
Yeah.
And it is totally separate from my food audience, whereas I have a travel site. I also have a food
Yeah.
site, but my food site is my biggest audience. And so I still use them to leverage book sales.
Yeah.
So when it came to like celebrating, like I love to do series on emails because it really gives you time to like stretch things out and talk about them in a longer form content, but breaking it up so it's digestible for your readers.
And you're managing expectations from the beginning of like, you're getting a series and here's what it is. We
Yeah,
know you like this. I learned
yeah.
this
I
30
saw you
minutes
open it
ago.
yesterday and you liked it. Here's more, but yeah. So we did a series of celebrating 100 Things to Do, the book in Las Vegas, and like I was saying, I really try to. I gotta stick to why they're here, which is the food. So my book actually opens up with soul food experiences in Las Vegas, and so we just built upon that. And
Hmm.
every day I would connect a cultural soul food experience, which people don't think about when they come to Las Vegas, that we have such cultural and heritage food, especially Southern soul food. And I love to name the places where you can go and find those things and taste a piece of home, even in Sin City, or the entertainment capital of
Yeah.
the world. So I would share favorite restaurant locations within the city, and then talk about dishes that I love there. And here's that same thing that you can make at home. And so,
Ooh, I love that
yeah,
tie-in.
connect that. So we're bringing a piece of Vegas home with you, or when you're in Vegas, having a piece of home, you eating that in Las Vegas. So that's how we share that. And it was a really fun series. It was a great way to honor my book, to share more about my city. So it was definitely personal, but I got to cover two spaces that I'm in one email series. And of course, to do that, we did it with, of course, my Vegas audience, but the bigger audience by far is my food audience. And we really got to cover ground with them there. And so, there was always anticipation every day for the next email in the series to, uncover and discover more about Las Vegas through food.
That's a great tactic. And I feel like that's an actionable thing that I think a lot of our listeners can take and think about, what can I do for a series or where's some crossover there? Because I think sometimes, ironically enough, we get like content fatigue because it's like there's so many options of so many things you could do that it's like analysis paralysis. What do I do next? Because this person does this and this person does that. So, to wrap this up, my final question for you, how do you, as a creator with multiple, faceted media assets, prioritize your time and, what you want to connect to the world?
Yeah, well, I definitely live in systems, because
Okay.
it's how my brain thinks. So, hmm, I guess mindset shifts, um, where this is, you want to think, I always think of it as you got to go small to get big.
Mm-hmm.
So a way to really manage that is niching down really tightly. And so it doesn't seem so overwhelming. One, because that's where authority and trust lies, in niche down content,
Uh-huh.
and niche down, media systems.
Yeah.
But also, I think it's a mindset shift also, where you're not feeling like you have to run around and cover ground in so many different spaces. So, I have usually 3 to 4 things that are absolutes that I must do every single day. And that keeps the media system, the
Yeah.
hub going, or the wheels spinning. And then other things come in as they can or can fit in, or maybe I just designate a day for those things when they come up. So that's kind of how I keep things intact there. And I guess for all creators, I would say for us to stop creating kind of one off content. That was very helpful for me. And
Mm.
start building connected experiences, content that supports itself and guides people through a journey. And I get
Oh, that's the storytelling piece, right?
storytelling piece. Yeah. So again, it's the welcome to my world part of that, where the difference between being a creator and then becoming a category. So
Hmm.
going small, building experiences, and shifting mindsets is what I'd say would be what were definitely helpful for me, and I would say would
Hmm.
be helpful for any content creator.
Yeah, those are great takeaways. And I think like for me, as I've just listened to you, my takeaway from this is thinking from, the future of how will I be found and how will I be discovered and how are people going to be consuming this? And I think that's the big thing you said was thinking about yourself as a category because the goal is to now get cited. And I think about that as, you know, I do research on the side, just with the work I've done about studying the creator economy and learning about that. And it's so interesting from an academic world, right? That's the ecosystem. You have to you write content, you write papers, you create this intellectual property that's yours, and then you need to get published and put it into the world. And the more cited you get, the more credibility and authority you get. And I think sometimes we think like, oh, we're reinventing this new thing and it's this new infrastructure. And it's like, not really. It's kind of the same thing, just packaged in a new shiny way. And yeah, is the infrastructure different? Does it evolve? Is it like a breakneck speed sometimes that's different? Yes, and we still are using the same mechanisms. So if you can think systematized, like you're saying, think like a category, think about how to build the authority, and you'll be all right. Did
You
I
know,
get it?
yeah, you're spot on. But that research, I have an upcoming interview with someone from Nielsen, and my
Uh-huh.
nerdy brain is so excited about it. Just uncovering, we're talking about food and trust with brands about
Yeah.
covering culturally relevant food.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't wait for that. But I think what you got it, you nailed it. And I think what becomes really clear is that, and you were just saying this, recipes are everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Trust is not.
Oh, yeah.
That's where we lean
Mic drop.
in.
The end.
Yeah.
Shaunda says.
Shaunda says, I love it. You remember it. See, that's what my readers are teaching infrastructure, right? Right.
Now I'm one of them. I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing this, Shaunda. I love, like I said, getting to chat with people and get into their brain and how they operate and think about things. And you've built such an incredible community, and it's incredibly inspiring to see the shift in just how your mindset, even this whole conversation of like, you're not just a blog, it's not just posts. So I really appreciate it. And we always wrap up our Tastemaker Talk episodes with a rapid fire wrap up. So I would like to know, what is a food opinion of yours that might be controversial?
All right. Culturally speaking,
Hmm.
if your mac and cheese isn't baked, we need to talk.
I mean, I think that's fair. Obviously, like I can't speak culturally to that, but like, yeah, based on the taste of things, I get it. Like,
A whole different experience.
ooh, and this is a good question. Daphne, solid question choices. Shout out to Daphne, who produces Tastemaker Talk and comes up with our agendas and things. When I saw this earlier, I was like, oh, I can't wait to see what she says. So tell me who your dream dinner party guest list. You get three people, any era.
This is so hard, but it's so fun at the same time. Like I live for this. Okay, I love a game, so
Okay.
I would first invite my great grandmother Florence. I want to show her the legacy that grew her work and the legacy that it grew into.
Oh,
So I'd have to have great grandma Florence there. If you listen to my podcast, the Soul Food Pod, I talk about how she's the inspiration for what I do. Then I'd invite Khalees, milkshake song from back in the 90s. Khalees.
yes.
Yeah, and why? I love her. She's building a sustainable food ecosystem and really living out farm to table in a global way
Yeah.
from Africa to California, and that just like feeds my soul. Um, then I'd invite Justina Blakeney, who's my favorite designer. I'm such like a
Yes.
bohemian. So her
Me
design,
too.
oh yeah,
I
don't you
love
love her?
her.
Yes. She's so bold and colorful and full of life. And I just already know a table would be unforgettable, like, if I had her expertise right there in the room. And then I'm going to break the rules because it was hard, and I'm going to invite one more, one more
You're
person.
allowed to break the
Okay.
rules.
Yeah, I'm pulling a seat up to the table. I would invite all my kids are adults, so one of my
Yeah.
kids, because I think it's important to have the next generation in the room
Oh,
carrying the conversation and the legacy forward. So
that's
that
a
would be my
really
list. And
good
if I could fit one
list.
more chair at the table, I would invite Shaunda Rhimes because
Oh, queen.
right, yeah, hail Shaunda Rhimes because I've always wanted to have a party for the Shaundas. And
Yes.
being a Shaunda,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, she'd absolutely be my first invite. So yeah, that would
Speaking of media, like royalty,
right,
she's
right.
literally she's queen.
She's
Oh my gosh, I would love to just like sit at the table and listen to Grandma Florence and Shonda just get after it and like all the stories they would tell and like the new shows they would probably create. Like
yeah.
what do you think the high level plot line would be of their show if they created one together?
Ooh, that would be so fun. Gosh, Shonda's such a genius, and I even think of my grandma Florence as a genius because she was a one woman catering queen. So
Oh
I
my
think they
gosh.
could find root in Grandma Florence's story because
Yeah.
that's always my thing. If the ancestors made it, I have no reason not to get this done. And
Yeah.
so I think that would be like the through line for a story that they could create together. Man, that's exciting. That's like a dream I want to have when I go to sleep tonight.
Okay. Shonda, if you're listening,
Right.
contact the others, the other Shonda.
Another
Yes.
Shaunda. First invite Shaunda Rhimes for the Shaunda Park.
Yes. Oh, Shonda squared. I love it. Oh, that is a great table. That was
Yeah.
fun. I want to ask everybody this question now because it gives you such good insight. And I want to learn more about your grandma Florence now. So we need a picture of her if you have one. So we can drop it in the show notes and in our email here because I feel like, as you were saying, like the community and the aspect of that is so important to get to connect to people. So thank you
Yeah.
for sharing your story today. And where can our listeners get in touch with you? Where's the best place to check you out online?
Sure. Yeah, I was crying
Oh,
tears of flowing for happiness. Now I'm just like I'm honored. Thank you. Thank you. Um, so yeah, thanks for having me. And I really enjoyed this conversation, especially the putting the seats at the table. So
hmm
I'm pulling up a chair there. But you can find me at thesoulfoodpot.com and shaundanecole.com. And I'm also at Shaunda, and my name is Shaunda Necole with an E across all platforms. And if you'd like to stay connected and join the waitlist for my upcoming cookbook, which is the Soul Food Pot Cookbook, you can always head to, again, thesoulfoodpot.com.
Wonderful. Thank you again. And for those who don't have their Tastemaker conference ticket in San Antonio, we would love to have you there. Are you coming to Tastemaker 2027, Shonda?
Already hotel booked, ticket in hand, or virtual ticket in the email. Yes.
Yes. So you get to connect with Shonda in person, and we can keep learning from each other. So I'm excited to see you in San Antonio. And until then, take care and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you, Abby. Thank you, Tastemaker community.
Thanks for listening to Tastemaker Talk. If you enjoyed this episode, let us know by leaving a review, giving us a rating, or sharing it with your creator friends.
And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode.
You can find more from us on our website, tastemakerconference.com, or even join us for an event where we learn and grow as a community of creatives.
The conversation doesn't stop here. Talk soon.